There's a moment in every man's life when he realizes he's no longer in control, not of his job, his home, or the person sleeping beside him. For me, that moment happened in the middle of a Tuesday afternoon, somewhere between a disastrous client call and the silence that followed a slammed door at home. Senior operations manager at a logistics company in Ohio. My life was built around fixing things, schedules, supply chains, shipping disasters. I was the guy who didn't flinch when things went wrong. But nothing in my career prepared me for what I saw when I got home early one day in March. Things had been spiraling at work for weeks. Delays in warehouse processing, a failed contract renewal, the kind of internal sabotage that happens when people smell blood in the water. I was in crisis mode, juggling phone calls, emails, damage control. I should have been at the office. I was scheduled to be. But my head was pounding, my chest tight, and I needed 5 minutes away from the chaos. So I left the office, told my assistant I'd be back after lunch, and drove home without calling. I figured I'd sit in the backyard, breathe the real air, and remind myself that at least one part of my life made sense. But I was wrong. The moment I opened the front door, I felt it. A shift in the air. My wife Lauren's car was in the driveway, but she hadn't texted me, hadn't mentioned being off. The living room was empty, but a wine glass sat on the coffee table, half full, lipstick on the rim. Music was playing softly upstairs. That's when the sound of water reached me. Not the shower. The bathtub. I stood at the bottom of the stairs, frozen. Then I heard a laugh, hers, and a deeper voice I didn't recognize. That's when I walked up, opened the bedroom door, and saw my wife in the tub with another man. She didn't scream. She didn't even look surprised. Just startled, like someone caught in a game. The man, a guy maybe 5 years younger than me, built like a gym membership brochure, scrambled out of the water. I didn't say a word. I turned, walked down the stairs, and out the front door. I didn't feel my hands shake until I was back in the car, parked 2 blocks away, staring at the wheel like it might explain something. My phone buzzed once, then again, then again. I turned it off. Not out of anger, but clarity. That was the moment my marriage ended, even if the paperwork hadn't caught up. Over the next few days, everything unraveled. I told no one. Not at work, not among friends. I didn't mention it when Lauren came home pretending nothing had happened, trying to act like we could reset. She moved through the house like a ghost, barely touching me, barely speaking. I moved through her like she wasn't there at all. At work, things kept getting worse. A critical shipment failed, 2 employees quit, and upper management started breathing down my neck. I was holding a grenade in both hands, one personal, one professional, and neither had a pin left. The strange thing about betrayal is how it sharpens your senses. Suddenly, you notice everything. The way she closes doors a little too gently, like she's hiding sound. The way she dresses when she thinks you're not looking. The way the silence between you grows longer, heavier. I watched her like a man preparing for war. She thought I was distracted, buried under pressure, drowning in work. She was half right. But what she didn't know was that I was also watching, waiting, planning. While I put out fires at work, I built the foundations of my exit. I had my name pulled from our joint accounts. I started storing cash. I rented a storage unit under a different name and began moving small things out of the house, important documents, personal belongings, the watch my grandfather left me, the photos I couldn't bear to see twisted by memory. Lauren never noticed. She was too busy living 2 lives. One with me and one with him. She didn't know the man she was married to had become a ghost with a calendar and a plan. One night, she came home late. I was sitting in the dark, waiting. She paused in the doorway, clearly startled, and gave me that fake smile I'd learned to hate. I had dinner with Carrie, she said. We lost track of time. I didn't respond. I just stared at her until her eyes dropped. Then I stood, walked past her, and went to bed. That was the first time I think she realized she'd lost control. The next day, she tried to be sweet. Made coffee. Asked how work was going. Touched my arm while I read emails. But it was all performance. She could feel it slipping, the comfort, the illusion, the lie we both used to live in. I was in the middle of restructuring our largest client account when it happened again. Another missed deadline. Another call with corporate. Another long day with nothing to show but stress and shame. When I got home, Lauren was sitting on the patio, legs crossed, wine in hand, phone in the other. She didn't see me pull into the driveway. She didn't hear the door open. She was too busy talking, soft voice, low laugh. I stood in the hallway and listened. Not to words, but tone, intimacy, excitement, things she hadn't shown me in months. She was still seeing him, even after I'd caught them, even after she'd promised, without saying a word, that it was over. That night, I finished my plan. I made the final arrangements. I canceled my lease with the storage unit and moved everything into a long-term rental on the other side of the city. I met with a property manager and signed paperwork for a new job opportunity that I hadn't even told my employer about yet. A private firm, smaller, more independent, fewer politics, a better start. I wasn't just leaving her. I was leaving the life she poisoned. And I was going to make sure she felt every second of the silence I was about to drop on her. I set the date for the end, marked it in my phone without a name, just a red X. The morning of the red X, I woke up early. Lauren was still asleep beside me, curled up in the same bed where she'd once whispered dreams and now likely whispered lies. I watched her for a moment, not out of nostalgia, but detachment. She looked peaceful, like someone without a care in the world. But I knew that by the end of the day, that world would be gone. I got dressed, picked up my already packed bag from the closet, and walked downstairs. I didn't leave a note. I didn't take a final look back. I just closed the door behind me and disappeared. By noon, I'd removed my name from the mortgage. By 3, I'd resigned from my job. By 5, I was checked into my new apartment. Lauren still hadn't called. She hadn't noticed. She probably assumed I was stuck in meetings or traffic, like always. I imagined her pouring a glass of wine, texting the man she thought she could keep secret, laughing at some shared joke in a house that no longer belonged to either of us. When she finally did call, hours later, I didn't answer. Not that day. Not the next. Instead, I let the silence do its work. When she came home to an empty closet, no car in the driveway, and a cold kitchen where warmth used to live, I'm sure it hit her in waves. I imagine she stood in the doorway, confused at first, then frantic. The drawers were empty. My toothbrush gone. The coat she bought me for Christmas no longer on the hook. The framed photo of us from our wedding day removed from the shelf, leaving behind a ghost-shaped dust outline. I wanted her to feel the weight of absence. Not just the physical, but the emotional. The undeniable truth that she'd finally broken something that wouldn't mend. Lauren tried everything. She called, texted, emailed. I deleted them all without reading. She came to my office, only to find I no longer worked there. She went to my brother's place, who had strict instructions not to engage. She even left a voicemail crying, something I hadn't heard from her in years. That one I listened to, not out of sympathy, but to mark the moment. That was the sound of someone realizing they'd finally reached the edge and found no bridge waiting.